Hey guys, this is Lucas Gilbreth here again with another episode of Back on the Bump. This is episode 4. I believe we're roughly 5-ish weeks in at this point, so we're kind of starting to get into a lot more of the development, a lot more of the strength, a lot more of the building back into throwing stuff. So for those of you that have watched the other episodes, the first 4 weeks were a lot of range of motion stuff, just a ton of boring, necessary but boring exercise stuff to get the arm just moving and functioning like the arm normally should. So this 5th week we got into a lot of strengthening stuff. So this week started involving some tricep extensions, some curls, some eyes, Ys, and Ts with the shoulder. So the eyes, Ys, and Ts obviously is something I've been doing a long time as a pitcher, but it's been funny to see how weak my muscles have actually gotten in such a short period of time. So I think the research shows that your muscles will start to atrophy within like 5 days of not being used. So that poor left arm, with it being really not used for about 2 weeks, it was in rough shape. So that's been kind of fun. It's been kind of infuriating to work back into the strength stuff, but it is what it is, and it's just part of the journey, I guess. So with the tricep extensions to start, it was literally like a broomstick. I think it's like a mobility stick technically, but I'm sure it weighs, I don't know, a pound, maybe 2 pounds. So doing that was pretty embarrassing, but also just part of the process. So it actually did get pretty difficult towards the end. I think towards the end when I was doing like 4 sets of 12 or 5 sets of 12 or whatever, I was dying. I mean, I'm only moving 2 pounds, but my arms definitely was lacking in some strength, and that's part of the rehab process, is getting that strength back. So that was a big step, and getting into that has been a big step for me. So just trying to get to the point where my arm starts to feel normal again, and I'm starting to be able to do more normal stuff is a huge piece for me. I like to be able to do things outdoors and do things with my hands, and obviously right now with the limited strength and durability of that left arm, it's definitely hindering my ability to go out and do some stuff. But nonetheless, the strength is coming back. In terms of the arms, the strength is getting there, and I'm slowly getting some of that back that I've lost over this time period. In terms of the lower body stuff, it's been a lot of the same. Still a lot of sleds. I've been trying to make some fun content regarding the sleds and whatnot, but doing a ton of sleds as much as I hate them. They are good for the lower half, and legs feed the wolf, so that part's been good. Along with that, it's been a lot of single leg squat exercises. I think I may have mentioned it before, but when you can't load a barbell on your back, you're pretty limited in how much weight you can use. So you have to get real creative with the exercises you're doing. So it's a lot of single leg variations. There's a single leg kind of side lunge deal. There's a lot of volume right now. Obviously, when you're not playing, that's a great opportunity to really amp up the volume and get that aspect of it in. So for us so far, it's been really getting the volume in. I think there's been like 10 sets of 4, 8 sets of 5, all that kind of stuff. So you're doing a ton of reps, but it's good for me because it helps pass the time. Along with the passing the time, I guess, is what I've been doing when the team's on the road or when the team's home, and vice versa. So the easy one is when the team's home, I've been watching the games, going to the field, working with the training staff. So I'm able to occupy myself. It is weird watching this many baseball games, and the things I've been able to pick up on and maybe hopefully have learned that'll help me once I come back have been huge. I think watching a lot of this stuff from this perspective, knowing you're not going to play, sitting on the bench, watching on TV, whatever it is, definitely changes the way you look at the game. It changes the way I've been looking at hitters, looking at pitchers, right? I think sometimes as pitchers we give hitters way too much credit, and watching these games kind of from a third person view is really showing me that sometimes hitters are just not comfortable. Maybe they didn't swing because they weren't comfortable, not because the pitch wasn't good enough. So it's been really interesting to watch that side of it. And that's mainly what I've been doing when the team's at home. I've been working on some weird analytics equations just because I'm kind of a nerd, but when the team's at home, I'm pretty occupied. I go to the field from about 12 to 10 p.m. So I spend a lot of my time there, and that's kind of my schedule. But when the team goes on the road, after that first trip, I haven't traveled since. So that's when it's been hard to stay occupied. I'm able to go in and work out and do my physical therapy at a place in Superior Synapse. But aside from that, I've had to find ways to keep busy. And that's where my wildlife photography, videography stuff has come into play, for those of you that have seen any of that. So my wife likes to give me a hard time because I like to be good at everything I do, just like everybody should. You should try and be the best you can at everything, but this photography, videography stuff has been really hard for me as somebody that's used to being able to pick up stuff and learn stuff pretty quickly. This has been driving me nuts. For me, it's been kind of a brutal process to learn. I've learned a lot the hard way, especially with wildlife photography. It's not like portraits, or not to say portraits and stuff aren't hard, but with people, it's usually slow moving targets. A lot of times it's stationary targets, and I've learned pretty quick with the wildlife. A, it's hard to get anywhere near the wildlife, and then B, they move crazy fast. So like my first whole photo shoot, I didn't have my shutter speed fast enough, so I essentially wasted 2 hours of my life and however many thousands of photos I went through, and realized that none of them turned out. So that's been a learning curve, but it's good, and it keeps me occupied, and it kind of gives me something to do while the team's on the road. In terms of watching the team right now, obviously I watch them while we're at home at the stadium, but on the road as well, I watch them on TV. And we had that tough spell there for a while, and just to kind of not address that, but to talk about that, I think baseball is such a ridiculous and incredible game at the same time, where it's like we were one pitch on the offense or defense away from winning almost all of those games, or at least changing the tail of a lot of those games. I think it's crazy when you look at baseball from that perspective of, you know, even in a blowout game, there's something that happens in one inning, one pitch or one play that could really change the course of the entire game. That one play that could have been a double play that isn't, maybe is only an error, maybe only one unearned run, but instead of 2 outs, nobody on, next thing you know, it's like first and second, no outs, or first and third, no outs. So that truly changes the scope of an inning, and that ultimately changes the scope of a game. Especially with starting pitchers now, it's hard to get guys to go deep, obviously with the pitch limit, restrictions, obviously with guys swinging, missing, a lot less contact. So when you add pitches, it's just going to change how everything happens in the inning and then in the game as a whole. So we turned it around. First came back in Philly, I liked how the guys look. They look energized, and I think we've got a good group of guys that's built to handle this stuff. I think it's one of those where you never really know what's going to happen throughout a season, and sometimes you go through a long rough patch, sometimes it's just kind of sporadic, but hopefully we're on the other side of it now. And I think this group of guys, especially the bullpen, has been battling their butts off, and I know offensively and starting pitching wise we'll pick it up. So I think going forward, hopefully we'll be in a better place. But so far for me, I mean, it's just kind of almost being an analyst. Like you heard me talk about it just now. I kind of get into dissecting the games, and I end up talking to my wife about it, and I'm sure it drives her nuts. But that's kind of how I've been handling the lack of baseball talk. So other than that, we're progressing, and hopefully I'll be able to start sharing some more lifting stuff, especially with the arm lifting stuff, hopefully next episode. And then on top of it, we're going to start progressing on our right-handed throwing journey through the plyo ball sets and all that kind of stuff. So be looking forward to that. But going forward, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content, and I'll keep trying to push out some interesting stuff and maybe some stuff that helps some of you guys out that are going through the same thing. But until then, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.